Hey everybody, how y'all doing? This is a video really going out to Revelation News, who I had the opportunity to meet on a hangout that was hosted by Nadia this weekend. And I had been like subbed to him for a while and watching his videos, but we'd never had the chance to chat or talk or meet or anything. And today I turned it on and I found one that he put up like 2 days ago on the 11th, and he was talking about a very personal topic, and he's in the video retelling a video that was the original one discussing this situation, and talking about what it was like for him later, recalling that, and that's what the video that I watched was about. And it touched me on so many levels. One, first, just because I'm a mother, I think, and because of, pardon me, a couple of the details in it that in what she said that that were significant to me, that I kind of have a little.
Okay, I get it.
Sorry, sweetie.
I was talking to you.
I know. There you go. So, the first thing I wanted to say is that I've had the same experience more than one time, that in relation to someone who has passed on, that a scent comes that I know has to do with that person, and they're clear connections that make sense at the time. For instance, my grandmother always smelled like witch hazel because she used witch hazel, so I would smell it. I've smelled roses, I've smelled oranges, just all manner of things. But anyhow, I started working with aromatherapy in 92, I guess, or 93. That's when I got really into it. And one of the things that we learned had to do with the hypothalamus, and how it's stimulated in the brain, olfactory, which, you know what, I really need to ask Christopher Mowdy about it, because he does some sort of something with scent or something, I think, and something that he does with his work, if I'm remembering that right. I don't know. But it was explained in one of the courses that I took that that part of the brain is one of the first. That part of that sense is one of the first to become important for an infant, because of the pheromones that the mother releases stimulate the interest of wanting to have food and being able to identify her mother, that literally it's by smell, and that a mother can literally identify her child by their smell. And those are the pheromones that provide that vehicle of connection and assurance that yes, you've got the right child or mother. Because it's something that's, along with touch, that's so powerful. It's been talked about by so many people, how you can have a smell of something and you feel like you're there again, or you have a memory of something that's connected to a scent of some kind. And it was interesting to me when you mentioned Niharishi, because the Niharishi company has about, I'd say 6 or 7, maybe 8 by now, fragrances but there are a couple of them that are so iconic and so well known that immediately I thought to myself, I wonder if it's this one. One of them is called L'air du temps, which means air of the time, and it was created after the war in an effort to raise money for um, taking care of the country after it had gotten through that time. And one of the things that made it such an iconic um, perfume was partly because of the flask. They were wanting to promote the idea that after this war that had torn apart so much of the world as we knew it, um, there was this time of peace or a respite or some sort of that there was a new spirit in there. There was a new time, that things were going to be different now. And they used the symbol of doves, two doves, kind of circling towards one another. And if you've seen the flask itself, it'll have that on the top. But if you have like an eau de toilette or something, you would never know that that's on it. But I just find that really funny just because of what doves can mean to Christians sometimes, knowing and Jews too, what doves have been in relation to. Um, so I was thinking about that, and it just became even more meaningful to me because of that. And I don't know what perfume it really was by Nina Ricci, but if it was L'air du temps, I think that's just kind of a funny happenstance about those kinds of things. There was something else you mentioned, and I don't know now why, of course, it slips my mind, but um, it is. Oh, I do remember. Um, when I was growing up as a Jew, there are very specific ways that you approach and have certain circumstances surrounding how you live with the fact that people have passed on. That, I mean, you could call those like the rituals or whatever, but they they have spiritual meanings behind them as to why you would do them. But because I grew up with them, so I can't say whether this would be the case for another person, but because I grew up with them, they make a great deal of sense, and they've just the knowledge of them, not even doing them as an adult, has sort of helped me gain my footing sometimes when um, I'm going through that kind of a situation, because I did also too lose a parent, so I'm sorry we share that in common, but yeah. So anyways, um, one of the descriptions is that the time of mourning is partly spent learning how to balance the change and the shift of the energy in the universe, because when someone goes, that energy goes away from you in this life, from behind the other side of the veil or whatever, and so you don't have access to them. And, just in a secular way, I guess people would call it something like, just getting used to the fact that they're gone, or something very simple like that. But I know it from the other way, so that's how I think of it. And that there's a lot of time spent in quiet contemplation and meditation, just sitting and not doing anything at all, just reaccustom, somehow trying to accustom yourself to this new shift of energy in your life and in your support systems and in the way that you approach things and look at things and whatever the case may be. And there are very specific time frames that are part of these cycles of mourning that you happened to mention 3 years is one that was talked about with you as being a time where it might somehow become a little easier to face. I don't think that there is any number that makes it more easy or more difficult. I think that the same feelings that you have in the arc of your mourning, which is a complex process, wherever you are in that stage is what you have, regardless of how many years it's been. And that I've met people, and I'm not talking about you in this instance, who weren't allowed for whatever reason, or didn't take the time, or just didn't want to think about facing any kind of time to mourn, who kind of stay at the same level of it, and it's still, you know, a very open wound to them, because the time doesn't change it. It's your attendance to it and how you have the perception of it that that really denotes. Because I've known people who had absolute comfort and knowledge in the fact that someone had passed on, and they didn't have the same kind of mournful sorrow that others have expressed to me in their experiences. And that's kind of where I sort of get that notion. So it's definitely important to take the time to readjust, and it doesn't matter how close or far you are from that time, because we're always changing and adjusting ourselves anyways. So there's no reason why we wouldn't have that as a part of the things that would need to be shuffled around. So you were talking about how people are still very much with us, and I absolutely believe that in our memory and the way that their lives have affected ours, that those are some of the ways that they live on. They live on in our hearts, and they live on in all sorts of ways. And excuse me. One of the ways that is the case for me is the name that I was baptized with. Happens to be the name of one of my great aunts. And after her passing, so I always think of her when I'm called by her name, rather than my, born English name or whatever you want to call it. So it's one of the ways that I can, just give some honor and respect and remember her, and it works that way. Anyways, I hope I hope to talk to you later again, and thanks for everything over the weekend, and take care. Peace on your heart.